Hey, welcome back to In Shannon's Kitchen. Today we're going to be making Wong Bao, or custard buns, which is a dim sum classic and definitely a childhood favorite for me. It's basically a steamed, soft and fluffy white bun that's filled with sweet and creamy custard filling. So to get started, I'm going to start with our bread dough first. I'm just taking some coconut milk, which is not traditional, but definitely adds just that hint of coconut sweetness and also the richness from the fat in the coconut milk. But you can definitely substitute with whole milk. I just added a part of my sugar as well as my instant yeast, or you can use active dry yeast. You technically don't have to activate the instant yeast, so you can just add it straight into the rest of the ingredients, but I do like to make sure that it's still alive, so I just add it to my warmed coconut milk. And now for the remaining ingredients, I just have some bread flour. I added the remaining amount of sugar as well as a pinch of salt, and just stir that together till it's all combined. So now all you need to do is just dump your wet ingredients, so that milk and yeast and sugar mixture that we prepared earlier. Just add it straight into the large bowl with the dry ingredients, and I'm doing it by hand here clearly, but you can definitely use a stand mixer, fit it with a dough hook attachment for just ease and simplicity. But you know, it's pretty simple and easy to make. It's pretty quick actually doing it by hand, so you get a little bit of an arm workout too, so that never hurts. And after mixing with the chopsticks, I just decided to go in there with my hands and just knead it around, because we're going to be kneading it anyways for roughly like 5 to 7 minutes. Again, it doesn't take much time doing it by hand, but you could definitely use a stand mixer if you prefer. So as I was kneading, you'll notice that the texture goes from something that's very rough with a lot of, patchiness, and it just looks not very smooth. And eventually, after 5 to 7 minutes of kneading on your counter surface, it should come together into a very soft, smooth ball dough. And now I'm just adding it into a lightly greased, lightly oiled bowl, where it's going to be resting and proofing while we make our filling. So just make sure, like any bread dough, you want to rest it in a nice warm and draft-free place. So as far as your filling goes, I know it's very trendy nowadays to incorporate these preserved salted duck egg yolks into your bao to make what's called a lu shu bao, or a salted egg yolk lava bun, which has much more of a runny consistency as well as a salty kind of preserved sulfur flavor to it from those egg yolks. But I do prefer the more traditional Cantonese style, which is what you find at most dim sum restaurants. So it's more of a sweet custard that has the consistency that's similar to a French pastry cream. So I'm just taking 4 large egg yolks, which I separated out from the whites, along with some sweetened condensed milk and cornstarch. I'm just going to whisk that together till it's all smooth and combined. And I know it's going to be a very unpopular opinion, but I really don't like those salted egg yolks. I remember growing up eating the Chinese tamales or the zongzhi, and I always picked it out. So I don't know, it's just not a flavor that really appealed to me. I guess you can say it's an acquired taste. So now I'm just adding some milk. You can use regular milk. You can also use coconut milk, since we did incorporate some into our dough. I just want to whisk that till it's smooth, and then add a generous splash of vanilla. And I did use vanilla extract in lieu of some custard powder, which is normally what you find in most Wong Bao recipes. So now at this point, we're going to cook it very gently over a simmering water bath or a bain-marie. And you do want to stir it, just keep it moving, that way none of it scorches on the bottom. And eventually, after a few minutes of cooking, and make sure that this mixture never really boils, you just want to steam it. It will look a little bit lumpy at first just because I'm using a spatula, but eventually I will whisk it out, so it'll get nice and smooth. So I tasted my custard at this point, and I added some powdered sugar, or confectioner's sugar as you might know it, just because it wasn't quite sweet to my liking. And then, like I said, I'm just going to whisk it out just to make sure I whisk out all those lumps. And this is a really effective way of cooking custard. If you ever cooked pastry cream before and it tends to like burn on you or clump up, or some of the egg cooks, I think using that water bath, like steaming method, is much more gentler and a lot easier if you're not familiar with making pastry cream. And then just whisk that till it's smooth, nice and creamy and luxurious. At this point, it's important that you cover it and make sure that it's nice and firm before you start filling your baos. So now I'm just giving a few light kneads to my dough, only because I took it straight out of the fridge after letting it sit there for about 4 to 5 days. I usually don't have the time or the energy after work during the week to make anything, so I just saved it for the weekend. I let my dough sit at room temperature when I was ready to use it, and also just kneaded it a few times to help soften it up, and it's basically as good as new. So then just divide it into 10 even-sized pieces. That's about 55 to 60 grams per ball of dough. Just roll it around on the work surface till you have a smooth sphere or smooth ball of dough, and just cover it and let it rest while we prepare the filling. So the filling has now chilled up. You can see here it's much more firm as I'm scooping it out, and you want to portion it out about a tablespoon per ball of filling. And I do prefer to kind of portion it out first and then just stick it straight into the freezer. That way it chills a lot faster and it's nice and firm and a lot easier to handle. I do want to mention that this recipe for the custard makes about double the amount that you'll need for this batch of dough, so you can either double the amount of dough and make 20 buns instead of 10, or you can use that extra pastry cream and fill cakes with it, or even make little fruit tarts or something like that. So now just place those little custard balls into your freezer and let it firm up for about half an hour or so. And then fast forward about half an hour, we're going to take each piece of dough and just roll it out, making sure to pay special attention to those edges and roll out the edges thinner than the center. And there is a method to the madness here. It actually helps to achieve a more rounded look to your bun, which is actually much more difficult than it looks. Trust me, I've tried numerous times. And so go ahead and just place your little custard in the center and wrap it all around, wrap all those edges, making sure to enclose every bit of that custard, and just go ahead and give it a really tight pinch, making sure that it's completely enclosed and sealed. Then just flip your bun over so it's right side up and the smooth side is facing upward, and then just rotate it using one hand in circular motions, and then the palm of your other hand should be cupping the bottom so the bottom of your bun stays sealed. And then just place each bun onto a parchment square, that way it doesn't stick to your bamboo steamer. And then the most critical part to any sort of bread making is making sure that you allow it to proof and at least like 1.5 to double in size, and making sure that it's covered while it's proofing. So now you can see my buns have about double in size or so. I just place the lid on my bamboo steamer and then just add some water into a pot and place your bamboo steamer over that. If you don't have a bamboo steamer, you could definitely just use a plate and then just cover the pot with the lid. But I have to say the bamboo steamer is better just because it absorbs any condensation from dripping down onto your buns. So now just place it over medium heat and let it cook for 15 minutes, making sure you do not lift that lid up. And then after 15 minutes, you want to shut the heat off immediately. And the most critical step here to make sure you get nice, soft, rounded, fluffy buns is you let it sit covered, making sure not to disturb it for 5 minutes. And then after that 5 minutes is up, the big reveal, and the suspense is building up here. So mine was pretty rounded on top. I was pretty happy, I have to say. Even though there are a few surfaces like where it's a little bit indented or cratered. I'm not sure what happened there. Maybe a little bit of condensation came down. But either way, you have the softest, fluffiest white buns with just a hint or essence of coconut flavor, but also has that richness from the coconut, which I think really helps instead of just using plain milk. And then of course you have that sweet custardy filling that's ultra smooth and velvety. It's so good. It makes a perfect little treat with some tea or coffee. So make sure to give it a try. Let me know in the comments below what you think, as well as any recipe suggestions for the future. I definitely appreciate your guys' suggestions and inspiration. And also make sure to hit the like button, as well as the subscribe and notification bell to make sure you get notified every time I post a new video. So I'll see you guys back here next time. Bye.